Hi, Trinity Fitness Warriors. I hope you had a great battle. Now let's talk about the cool down. Very, very important. Think of the cool down as just another transition. It's a transition to intensely working your body, transitioning back into normal function, normal activity. It's very important for several reasons. Number one, during that battle, your muscles were vigorously contracting, pumping blood throughout your entire body. Well, we don't want to go from 100 miles an hour to 0 without any transition. If we do that, there's a chance of blood pooling in your lower extremities, could cause some lightheadedness, some dizziness. Cool downs prevent that. Cool downs also aid in recovery and injury prevention. So very important to do. My typical cool down can last anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. Doesn't have to be long, but it is important, and I would say it's probably the most neglected area of fitness that's out there. So I'm going to share with you some things that I do in my cool down. All right, time was called, the battle's over. The first thing I do is go for a short walk. What do I mean by short walk? I mean 80 to 100 meters. And my hands are on my hips, and I just walk out of the gym slowly, and then I turn around after about 40 meters and I walk back into the gym. After that, just like the warm up, I start from the top and I work my way down. And these stretches are now static stretches. They're not dynamic stretches where we're moving muscles and joints through the range of motion. It is simply, I am holding my arm in place, so I'm stretching this external part of the shoulder right here, and I just bring it across my chest, hook it on my other arm, and get that stretch. And I'll hold that for 10 or so seconds. If you need more, take more. And I'll do the other side. Okay, and I'll hold that for several seconds. From there, I'll go right arm up, grab my elbow, and just pull my arm back, and I'll stretch the back portion of my arm into my lats as well. And I'll do that both sides. There are a couple of dynamic stretches that I use in my warm-up, and I'll use them in my cool-down as well, simply because I want to keep my torso, my hips, and for me personally, those things get a little bit tight. And so I'll still do my trunk rotations, a few reps in my cool-down, and I'll slow it down. This is low intensity activity. I'm trying to get my heart rate back down. So I won't move very fast or very intensely at all in my cool down. But I'll just rotate my hips. I want to keep all that loose. Here's where I change though. I go back to static stretch on my hamstrings, and I like personally to go wide with my feet. I allow gravity to do all the work. Again, my heart rate, I want it to come down now. I want to restore it to its normal resting rate. So I'll just hang here, and I'll put my hands on the floor. I'm taking deep breaths. I'm slowing down my breathing. I'll walk over to the left side, and I'll just hang out here. Again, I'm not trying to force this stretch. I'm just allowing gravity to do the work here. And after I feel like, okay, I've got 10 seconds or so, or I feel like it's loosening up, I'll walk over to the right side, and I'll hang out here for several seconds. If I feel like I need to go back to the left, I do that. So listen to your body. Where you feel tight, hang out in those areas a little bit more. Generally, I'll come back to the middle and I'll go a little bit deeper into this stretch now. From here, I like to walk forward, and I'll keep my feet wide, and I'll just sink my hips down into like a wide stance, child or surrender pose, seal pose, right up in here, just taking a look at the ceiling, and I'll just gently roll my hips to one side, roll to the other side, and again, allowing my heart rate to come back down. I'm controlling my breathing. I really love to, during this portion, think back on the devotion and recall those thoughts, because the last thing I want to think about going out of the gym is what was shared to me in a spiritual sense. So I'll recall the devotion and reflect on that for a few moments. From here, I like to go to a sitting position. Now, I don't know that there's a right or wrong way necessarily to cool down. One, it's important that you do cool down and hang out, again, where you feel more tight, stretch those areas. So for me, again, hips tend to get tight on me, and I know this is more dynamic. and usually the cool down it's more static, but I like to just flop my knees one side to another to loosen up my hips just a little bit more, particularly if I was doing some squats, lunges, things with the lower body focus that day. All right, and I'll do that probably 20 times. Then I'll sit back up. I'll sit tall, take a deep breath. On the exhale, I'll come and reach for my toes. And I'll hang out here a little bit, maybe 10 seconds or so. Then I'll come and bring my soles of my feet together, grab my toes. I like to keep my elbows on my knees because that forces my knees down. You never want to stretch to the point of pain. That means you have muscle fibers that are tearing and it's going to delay recovery. So don't stretch till you feel pain, stretch till you have a gentle tension on that muscle you're stretching, and just hold that. Okay? Perfect. The only other area that I want to hit are my quads. That's the front portion of your leg. And to do that, I'm going to go back up to a standing position because that's where I need to be anyway to walk out of here. All right? Typically, because I do want to keep my heart rate down, I don't want to overexert myself now. I'm going to hold on to something for balance. Grab the front part of my foot, and I'm just going to hold this. In a warm-up, we would go back and forth. In a cool-down, static, I'm just going to hold this stretch for a prolonged period, again, 10, 15 seconds or so. If I want to feel a little bit more, I'm going to arch my back and contract my quad slightly, or not my quad, my hamstring, which is the back portion of your leg, and you'll feel more of a stretch in the front portion of your leg. After that, I'll switch and I'll come and hold this side. Again, I would balance here better, particularly after a battle. And that would be about it for the cool down. So important to do, TF Warriors. Aids your recovery, helps you stay injury free, and it prevents the blood from pooling in your body. God bless you. Keep going.